Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Daily English Talk podcast. I'm Alex.
And I'm Sam. And today's episode is one that so many of you have asked for. How to speak English confidently. Without that fear, without freezing up, and without feeling like you're about to explode from nerves.
Yeah, looking at some of the messages that you've sent us, Sam, it's really striking how many people experience that exact same feeling.
It is. It really is. We've all been there, right? You've got the resources, maybe even spent years studying, the grammar rules are there, the vocabulary's in your head.
Right.
But then someone asks you a question or, it's your turn to speak, and suddenly it feels like your brain has just installed a very effective do not disturb sign.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like that overthinking kicks in, Is my grammar perfect? Are they going to understand my accent? Am I even saying a basic greeting correctly? It's fascinating. And honestly, a bit cruel how quickly that fear can take hold.
It is. But the encouraging thing, and this is something that really came through in all the material you shared with us, is that confidence isn't some fixed trait you either have or you don't.
Right.
It's a skill that you can actively develop. And that's really what we're focusing on today.
Exactly.
We're going to look at some of the underlying reasons why this fear of speaking English exists for so many people. Then we're going to explore how you can start to shift your perspective on what it means to communicate effectively.
Yeah.
And we're going to break down some very practical, actionable steps that you can start incorporating into your daily routine right away.
We'll also touch on some of the really helpful tools that are available now that can really support you on that learning journey.
Yeah.
And finally, we want to emphasize that building this confidence is a gradual process.
Yes.
It's a series of small wins that really add up over time.
Exactly. So if you have ever found yourself staying silent in a conversation, even though you knew what you wanted to say simply because you were afraid of making a mistake or not sounding perfect,
Right.
this is for you.
This is for you. Let's get into it. So the first question that comes to mind, looking at what our listeners have told us, is why does this fear seem so universal for English speakers? It's clearly more than just about knowing the language.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's very rarely just about, a lack of vocabulary or grammar knowledge. The thing that consistently comes up is this fear of judgment.
Right.
You worry about sounding wrong, about people noticing your mistakes, or even worse, the fear of being laughed at.
It's that vulnerability, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Putting yourself out there in a new language, it can feel like you're really exposed.
Mm-hmm.
And as one listener mentioned, there's this real fear of appearing stupid simply because you make a grammatical error or mispronounce a word.
Absolutely.
And that's a really crucial point to address right away. Making mistakes is not just normal.
Yes.
It is absolutely essential to the learning process.
It is. Think about it. How else do you identify what you need to work on?
Exactly. Remember when we talked about how babies learn to speak their first language?
Oh, yeah.
They make all sorts of funny sounds and, incorrect grammatical structures.
All the time.
But do we judge them? No.
Yeah.
We celebrate every attempt, every new word. We encourage them to keep going.
Exactly.
So the first really important takeaway here is to recognize that this fear is a natural human response to feeling vulnerable. But understanding its origins can actually help you start to disarm it.
Right.
It doesn't have to be the thing that controls your willingness to speak.
For sure. And this leads us to a really important shift in how you might be thinking about speaking English.
Yeah, this idea of shifting your mindset is so powerful because many learners get stuck on this idea that they have to achieve some level of perfect English.
Right.
Perfect grammar, a flawless accent.
Right, which doesn't exist.
Which, as we were discussing earlier, even native English speakers don't speak perfectly all the time.
No, we don't.
I mean, think about it. When you're tired, you're speaking quickly.
Yeah.
You might stumble over words you use in formal grammar. You might even completely misspeak.
Yeah, happens to all of us.
It happens to everyone.
Yeah.
So instead of aiming for this unattainable ideal of perfect English,
Yeah.
try reorienting your goal towards simply communicating effectively. The primary purpose of language is to connect with other people,
Yes.
to share ideas, to be understood.
Be understood.
Prioritize that connection
Yeah.
over this relentless pursuit of flawlessness.
And what's fascinating is that when you release some of that pressure to be perfect, you often find that your speech becomes more natural and you're actually better able to express yourself. Yes, absolutely. So we're starting to understand the fear a little bit better. We're starting to understand how to adjust our thinking. But now let's get down to brass tacks. What are some concrete daily practices that our listeners can start implementing today?
Yeah.
Because mindset is vital, but it needs to be supported by action.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One technique that might sound a little unusual, but that many learners find incredibly helpful, is to simply talk to yourself in English.
Yeah, I know it can feel a little strange at first, but think of it as like a low-pressure way to just practice forming sentences and getting comfortable with the sounds of English.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can narrate your day.
Yeah.
As you're making your morning coffee, you can say to yourself, I am now pouring hot water into the coffee filter. As you open your laptop, I am opening my laptop to check my emails.
Right.
It sounds simple, but it trains your brain to start thinking in English.
Yes, in real time.
Yeah, in real time.
Another really valuable technique is to record yourself speaking.
Yes.
Pick a simple topic. Maybe you know something you did yesterday, your favorite hobby, your plans for the weekend, and just talk for 1 or 2 minutes. Don't worry about being perfect, just speak naturally. The real benefit comes when you listen back to that recording. It allows you to identify patterns in your speech. Maybe words you use frequently, areas where you hesitate, or pronunciation points you might want to focus on. It's like giving yourself personalized feedback.
It is.
And don't underestimate the power of the mirror technique.
Oh, the mirror technique.
Yeah, stand in front of the mirror and speak to your reflection. This can help you build confidence in your body language while you're speaking, and also get more comfortable seeing yourself speak English.
Right. And the great news is, you're not alone in this journey. There are so many fantastic tools available now to support English learners.
There are.
Things like language exchange apps, Hello Talk, Tandem Speaky. These connect you with native English speakers who are learning your language. It's a fantastic way to get real-world practice and a really supportive environment.
It is. And don't forget about online communities as well. Joining English-speaking Discord groups, Facebook communities that are related to your interests.
Right.
These can provide opportunities for low-pressure interaction.
Yeah, even looking for local language meetups in your area.
Yes.
Could be a great way to connect with other learners and native speakers.
Face-to-face.
Yeah, face-to-face. And if the idea of live conversation still feels daunting, start small. Leave a comment in English on a YouTube video that you enjoyed, or send a short voice message to someone on one of these apps.
Yeah.
It's still valuable real-world practice.
Absolutely.
Without that immediate pressure of a back-and-forth conversation. Now, what's the most important things to keep in mind as you start incorporating these practices is to have realistic expectations about your progress.
Absolutely. Confidence is not built overnight.
It's not.
It is the result of consistent effort and a series of small achievements.
Exactly. So start with those easy wins. Maybe your initial goal is just to order a coffee in English without feeling completely overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Or to ask a simple question to a tourist.
Right. Then you can gradually start challenging yourself more. Perhaps you try to have a slightly longer conversation with a language exchange partner. Or you volunteer to speak up in a small group setting.
Right. Think of it as a gradual climb. Maybe at first just saying hi feels like a huge hurdle. But after consistent practice, you might find yourself confidently telling a full story about your day.
Yes. And remember, every single time you attempt to speak English, even if it feels awkward or you make mistakes, you are making progress. Each conversation, no matter how brief or imperfect, contributes to building your confidence over time. This reminds me of a message we received from one of our listeners, a listener named Anna from Brazil.
Oh, yes. Anna's story was so insightful. She really captured this feeling that we're talking about.
She did. She shared that she had been learning English for over 5 years. She was proficient in reading and writing, felt comfortable with grammar, but when it came to actually speaking, she would freeze. Even in very basic conversations, she would panic and feel incredibly embarrassed.
And what was particularly relatable was her work situation. She worked in an office where they occasionally had meetings conducted in English. Even though she often knew exactly what she wanted to say, she would avoid speaking up entirely because she was so afraid of saying it wrong.
But here's where her story becomes so encouraging. She decided to implement some of these small daily practices that we've been talking about. She started by talking to herself in English for just 5 minutes each day. She started recording short voice notes to practice expressing her thoughts. And she even did this really creative thing. She would pretend she was hosting her own English podcast.
That's fantastic. Such a low-stakes way to build that fluency and confidence.
It is. And after about a month of this consistent daily practice, something remarkable happened. She actually spoke up in one of those English work meetings. She later told us, and I just think this is such a powerful quote, "It wasn't perfect, but it was me, and I was proud of that."
And that's such a key insight. Confidence isn't about waiting until you feel completely ready.
Right.
Or until your English is flawless. It comes from showing up and putting yourself out there even when it feels uncomfortable. That act of speaking, even with imperfections, is what builds true confidence.
Absolutely. So a huge shout out to Anna if you're listening. Your experience is a fantastic reminder for all of us that taking those small, consistent steps can lead to significant breakthroughs. All right, let's bring this all together. Today, we've really focused on understanding this common experience, the fear of speaking English, and more importantly, what you can do to overcome it.
We explored some of the root causes of that fear, the importance of shifting your mindset from perfection to communication, and those practical, actionable steps you can take every day, from talking to yourself to utilizing that wealth of online resources that are available. And of course, we shared Anna's inspiring journey.
So if you take just one thing away from our conversation today, let it be this. You absolutely do not need to have perfect English to be a confident English speaker. The most crucial step is simply to start speaking.
That's right. Begin with those small, manageable steps. Speak a little bit each day. And please be kind to yourself and accept that mistakes are an inherent and valuable part of the learning process.
Yes. For your action challenge today, we encourage you to do exactly what Anna did. Record yourself speaking for just 1 minute.
1 minute.
Pick any topic that comes to mind.
Easy.
It could be about your day, your plans for the evening, a movie you recently watched, anything at all. The key is to just speak without judgment or self-criticism.
And if you're feeling particularly brave, consider sharing that recording with a trusted friend who's also learning English, or perhaps even with a supportive online community.
And if you found this conversation helpful, please do consider following or subscribing to the podcast and leaving us a quick review. It really helps other learners discover this resource. We might even feature your story or insights in a future episode.
Absolutely.
All right, that's our time for today. Keep practicing, keep showing up, and remember, you absolutely have what it takes.
Until next time on the Daily English Talk podcast, take care.